Welcome to Award-Winning Photography Explained. My name is Manpreet. I'm a photographer and a retoucher, and I'm going to be your host today. This is a channel where we look at images that have won awards, and we speak with the maker of these images and try and understand what it took to create the award-winning image. Today we have with us Terrill Bodner. She's a brilliant photographer based out of Prince George in BC. She is a very active accredited member of PPOC, which stands for Professional Photographers of Canada, and she has to her credit 12 accreditations. Not only that, she has been winning numerous awards since 2011 till date. In 2021, she was awarded the Master of Photography Arts, and in 2022, she was given the Service of Photography Arts. So welcome, Terrell.
Thank you, Manfrotto. It's an honor to talk to you about this.
Okay, so explain to our audiences who don't know what this is about. Please explain to them what exactly is accreditation in maybe a short one or two sentences.
Well, considering I'm just taking over for BC, the accreditation chair position, I should know what it's about. It's PPOC recognizes their photographers, their members that submit 10 images to be judged to see if they are worthy of being accredited. It has to be above average images and exceptional quality, and they have the equipment and ability to create the images for up to 79 categories that we have for accreditation. So
nice.
12
And you've already bagged 12 categories of accreditation.
Yeah, a long way to go. No, you can get as many as you like.
Yes. And what is Master of Photography Arts?
Master of
and then Service of Photography Arts.
Okay. Master of Photographic Arts. Actually, I earned mine in 2015. In 2021, I got my first bar. Master of Photographic Arts comes after you get your Craftsman of Photographic Arts. That's the first designation PPOC offers. And the Craftsman, you need one accreditation and so many merit points, all added up together to earn that degree. And that's by submitting images.
For a layperson who doesn't understand these terms, if you could just say what it takes to get that designation awarded, as to you've got to do certain amount of service and you got to be a certain level, right?
Yes. So the first designation PPOC offers is Craftsman of Photographic Arts, and it's earned by service to the profession and volunteering in PPOC and submitting images to competition, earns you merit points, print points. It all adds up. There's a certain amount of points you need to get the Craftsman, as well as at least one accreditation. Then to get the Masters, it's more print points, more service added up, and a second accreditation at least.
So that means you got to be a well-rounded photographer and participate in the functioning of the association.
Yes.
Be a valuable member to the photography community, right?
Yes, exactly.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how exactly you got started or interested in photography.
Well, I have my grandma's brownie camera. No.
Oh, did you?
I still have it. Yeah, she gave it to me. Probably I started in grade 9 when I have a twin sister, and my parents bought us a Pentax SP1000, which I still have. The first SLR camera I ever owned. Actually, the only one. Then I went digital years and years later. But back in grade 9, there was the yearbook club, and learning to develop film in the black and white and seeing things being processed, coming back to you, film days, all of that kept me interested. It was a great creative outlet for somebody who was really, really shy. But I stayed on the yearbook. I was throughout high school and till grade 12 and loved that experience.
Now let's talk about this image of yours, this brilliant image. You want to bring it up?
I will do that. I'll share my screen.
This image, Supernal Powers, is such a brilliant image, Terrell. It combines two aspects of photography. Actually three aspects. Photographing the night sky, photographing the northern lights, and painting with light.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Lots of fun.
Talk to us a little bit about this image. Is this a composite? Did you do it in camera? What was the basis of this image? How did you plan it?
Okay, so first off, you can't plan the aurora. If it happens and you get to go out and there's clear skies and you have a friend to go with you, it's great. But for planning this image, it came later how I created this. I called it Supernal Powers because supernal means of the celestial heavens, that type of thing. Kind of spiritual, kind of fun. But when you go out and shoot aurora, there is that feeling of how tiny you are in the world when you're looking at the sky and the aurora and everything else. So it's just a love that I've developed, and I chase the aurora all the time, every chance I get. This time I went out, it was September 1st, 2019, and I called a friend, Judy Weeb. She's my model there. Because I like to go out with a friend, and she loves to chase the aurora as well. So after 9 o'clock at night, we're hopping in our cars, we're driving, or one car at that time, we were driving our vehicle 45 minutes north of Prince George to this special location that's got water on either side of this bridge that she's standing on. So we were waiting. I'll show you two pictures. These are the raw files. They're taken and captured an hour apart from the same location. So a little bit of movement on the where I'm standing, and that's about it. So I want to go through the process of how I captured these.
So before we get into the process,
yeah,
Aurora Borealis. Now, it's not easy to catch them. How do you do your research? How do you find yourself in the right place at the right time?
So I use several apps. So and how I first came about this, I came across it on Facebook. I started seeing some aurora pictures. I don't know why, because whatever Facebook feeds you. And there's two Facebook groups. One is BC Aurora Enthusiasts, which I found just last year. There's a fellow that runs it that's Prince George based, but there was Alberta Aurora Chasers, and I signed up for Alberta Aurora Chasers Facebook page just to learn about how do you find aurora and when should you go out, all those good questions beginners ask. And I highly recommend anybody on Facebook that wants to shoot aurora to join that group, especially if you're in Alberta or BC. It's based out of Calgary and Edmonton. Edmonton is same level as we are in Prince George, so I get the advantage of Edmonton. If I'm looking at the Facebook page and they say there's something going on, they're an hour ahead of us, so we'll get the dark an hour later. So we have a little bit of advance warning. If there's going to be a show, we can get our pants on. There is a Aurora Alerts on a website called softservenews.com, and you can sign up for notifications, and I only sign up for red alerts because that's when where I live in Prince George, where you'd see mostly more activity. A yellow alert you may not see too much because of just the way the aurora is circulating over the north. And what I go out for is a KP4 or greater. That's a geomagnetic activity level that we watch for. And when I get an alert, I'll check Facebook if I haven't been checking it recently, and just see what the KP4 is indicating, and it'll forecast for the next hour. They're only forecasts, so the aurora can change, but there's always the hope that it's going to show. Normally I don't usually go out unless there's a KP5 or 6 or a Geostorm 1. Those are great. I've seen a KP5 and 6 before, and they just blow up overhead. And
Wow.
you just can't go home until the show is over. 3 in the morning, you
Yeah.
drag your butt home.
It's
So
always been one of my bucket list items to
well,
shoot.
you will come up one day, and I'll take you out.
Yes.
Yes.
But you generally get these warnings pretty late at night.
You do, but right now there's another app, Aurora Pro, and I suggest you pay for this one if you want to sign up for it. The free one isn't really worth it, I found. There's a viewing probability page on it, and it's for your current location, and the cloud coverage for tonight also is on there, and the KP number for the next hour, and the upcoming hours, and the upcoming days. So that's a really good one to watch for.
So let's say you've got this, and the message that you're getting a KP6 or a KP5, and you want to go out, and it's nighttime. How do you decide where to go, or do you have some favorite locations, or have you scouted locations during the daytime, and you've decided that yes, when there's a show, I'll come here?
This location that we've got right here is a favorite of mine. It's north of Prince George, and it just offers a beautiful view, and the aurora is usually right there. In northern BC, there's a lot of lakes, but you don't really have a lot of access to them. This is on a forestry road that you can go in, and that's helpful. There's another location not so far north of town that has a winding S-curve of an open field, which is really nice as well.
What do you look for in a location?
Something that has a nice foreground, whereas this one has water. The open field one, it's great in winter, and I took a couple friends there, and we could see it dancing over the trees, but have a nice long white field in front of it, so there might be some reflection. Jasper and Banff and all those areas with the mountains, well, it's a long drive and we probably miss the show, so I keep looking for areas here. North of town is usually best because Aurora is in the north. Drove one night almost all the way to Bear Lake to catch her. Yeah.
That's a good tip, that north of town is always better than the southern part.
South or west, yeah. Go
Yes,
north.
yes, that's a good tip. And you said beginning of September, so these generally last through September, October, November, right up to March?
They're there all year, actually. They've been active just lately. Yesterday, today, they've been out because the aurora is always there. It's just whether or not your sky is dark enough to see them, and no clouds.
And this is the month of July that we're talking in.
Yeah. So here in the north, it doesn't get dark till 11-ish. So you have to stay up really late to catch them, and you have a narrower window because by about 3 o'clock it's lightening up. But then,
and I understand it gets quite cold. How do you prepare yourself to spend long hours in the bitter cold and in the darkness?
Well, lived up here for over 40 years.
Okay.
I have my long coat, I have my boots, gloves and things. I can show you a few things. Do you want to see now?
Sure, absolutely.
When I go out and shoot aurora, aside from the long winter coat and things like that, if it's fall or 10 degrees or less, it gets a little chilly. I like a headband. I like to still hear my partner, whoever's gone out with me. If it's getting a little colder, there's a insulated toque.
Okay.
Toques keep your head warm and you stay warm. But this one's really cool because it's got a headlamp built into it. I got it at Mark's, I think.
Well, nice.
And
cool.
I had to put the little red plastic over it, just stick it on there. Otherwise it was giving me a white light. So I've stuck the plastic over it because red light, your eyes have to adjust to the night. And with the red, it's not as glaring, and it helps you keep your eyesight, not lose it and have to wait another 5 minutes to start adjusting again.
That's another good tip.
Yeah. And I carry a red thing, a plastic thing, in case I need something red quick to hide a light. a blanket. Whoops, crash. A blanket.
Mm-hmm.
I have wrapped that around Jamie and Jamie. They each had one. I wrapped it around their waist because they were Burnaby girls, you know, a little chilly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was wearing my shorts. No. That was in April. Sleeping bag in the car. First aid kit as well. Something else that keeps me really warm. This thing. I could probably cut it out I could cut it out as a balaclava, but it pulls over my head for my neck, or I can pull all the way over my head. So that's nice. Keeps me warm around here. Tuck it into an open coat as you zip it up.
Nice.
Yeah, that helps. Any other thing for cold?
What about your hands?
3 sets of gloves.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've got one that's just fleece lined, slip on. They're good for driving out there, and I've got just a pair of leather ones that has a little finger on it, but I find that really doesn't work, you know, because I checked my apps on the phone. But it's thin and it's manageable for the camera if my hands get really cold. A lot of the time I'm just doing it barehanded, even when it's -20, but only for a few minutes. And then I bought these ones here. What is this? Vallerret, over $100 for a pair of gloves that are or a camera.
Oh, look at that.
If you can stand these 2 pieces getting cold, you can maneuver your camera. So when it gets
and what is the brand?
Vallerret.
Okay, after the talk, send me the link so I put it in the show notes as well.
Yes, add that.
Good,
So
good.
I pack all that into my camera bag. This is my travel bag for all my goodies. And I have lighting stuff as well. I can show you a little bit later, or do you want that now?
Yeah, you can go ahead and show.
Lighting stuff? Okay. So for lighting, when I was lighting Judy, I think I used this one. It's a great big mag light. I don't want to blind anybody. Woo!
Okay.
And it has a little, I could put red.
Oh, nice.
The red thing, I already put it away, but put the red on the bottom and it'll glow red. Lots of playing.
Okay.
And that one, when it's lit up, that's what made the ribbon in the photograph there. This one's kind of handy. Don't know if everybody can get one. It's from the East Division of the RCMP North District. It's a rollover simulator.
Wow.
Cool, huh?
Oh, cool.
And it's got a light on the end. Yeah. So any type of flashlight like that. This isn't the greatest, you know, regular old camping flashlight, because it has those circles in it from the bulb. It just makes weird shadows. But it's good for where's my whatever in the back seat of the car.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have another image I created using one of these.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Get a lantern of some sort. And this opens up, and I put a little tea light in it. So the tea light will always burn. One of these little plastic things at the dollar store. That's the tea light.
Right, right.
See if this one works. Yeah, it works, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can be played around with, put in the lantern. And the other last thing that's kind of fun. Dollar store stuff, glow sticks. All you have to do is break them and they glow.
Okay, don't break one now.
Do it. Yeah. So I got all colors in here. You play with those.
Very nice.
Yeah. So light. Play with light. And what else?
And what about the gear?
The gear.
What gear did you?
The last thing I take is tripod, of course. I have a Manfrotto.
Okay. Nice.
I use that to hold my Canon. 5D Mark IV is what I shoot.
Very nice.
Full frame. Yeah. And I haven't invested in the Canon. This is the only non-Canon lens I have. It's a 14mm Rokinon.
Okay. I believe it's pretty good. I've heard good things about that.
I bought this because on Alberta Aurora Chasers, somebody else was asking the question, what do we shoot with? And this has a 2.8 aperture.
Nice.
It's manual focus, but you're in the dark. You're going to have to focus manually anyway. And It's a 14 mil.
Okay.
It comes like that, doesn't come off. It's really good, so I don't damage that fisheye lens. I trip over my feet and land on my camera. And yeah, you set it to infinity when you're shooting in the dark. Shoot it on, set it on a star, check the live view and take a picture, see if it comes up sharp. If it does, great, you're set on manual, but you can always back it up from infinity just a touch sometimes and check it again if it wasn't quite sharp, and then you're set for the night.
Okay.
Yeah, and this lens was only about $400,
Nice. That's sweet.
as opposed to, I don't know.
And you obviously shoot wide open?
I always shoot wide open because your settings, that's the next thing, right? The settings, 2.8 is wide open. That's as wide as this will be. There'll be 1.4, but it'll cost you twice as much. ISO, I always want to shoot around 400, and I set it up and I get a black photo and I think, all right, move it to 1600 ISO, and 8 to 15 seconds, start playing in that ballpark until you capture the green aurora, the image, or you see some color. And I'll show you when my pictures, my raw ones, they're pretty dark, and that's okay with me. 2000 ISO is what those were, and that's okay.
So let's take a look at them.
Okay, one more thing I do, spare batteries. Yep. Always spare batteries.
That's very important.
And extra cards.
Nice.
Yeah, so have something to carry that.
Batteries are important. In the cold, they kind of tend to drain out faster.
They can, yeah. I'm always... And I have another camera, a 90D, which is a crop sensor, and I have a Canon 10 to 22 that fits on the crop sensor.
Right.
But I prefer the image from the full frame 14. It's really good. Last thing,
although the 10 to 22 is beautiful.
You know what this is?
That's a bear spray.
You betcha. Never had to use it.
That's good.
Feeling secure. They say that you don't have time to pull the plug if the bear is coming at you, so we just yak away, and we have no trouble. But it might be for safety from other creatures. Always a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So should we get into the image and talk about how you created that image? You want to share your screen again?
I will do that now. So you can see the two images that I used for this composition.
Yes.
And they were shot at 15 seconds, f2.8 on that Rokinon, and ISO 2000, both of them. So I was set. I didn't have to change my settings for the whole shoot. We were out there for almost 3 hours, and I thought I had only taken 130 images, but I renamed them after I finished culling. I probably took around 600 for the night, and then maybe 5 or 6, and then culled down just the ones that interested me, that had something in it, and then I always save the files, but the best ones, these two, is what worked for me for the composition. And so, but first I load it up, bring it into Bridge, and as you can see, it really isn't a great looking image, but I know it'll look like that for night shooting. So I hit auto in Bridge on practically everything I shoot, just to see what the software says as opposed to how I shot it. And another thing I always hit is optics, and remove chromatic aberration and use the profile corrections. There's no chromatic aberrations happening on these good lenses, but I always hit it. But the use profile corrections, the Canon doesn't recognize the Rokinon, so it won't show up as that's what it was shot with. So I have to find Rokinon and hit it, and you see that how that popped? The 14 mil lens.
Yeah.
That's how it looked. And when we use the profile correction, the barrelness of the lens, basically, when you click profile corrections, it flattens it out some, stretches it out, looks more normal to me. So I always hit that. And then I go into the basics. I'm not one that uses presets. I know they're in there somewhere, but I don't do that. I've been slowly learning Photoshop since 2010, and there's so much to learn. But what I did is I played with all these sliders, and what I'm going to do today is just punch in the numbers that I had in the original, when I created it originally. And clarity, I just bumped it up. I don't do clarity more than 10, but that was at about a 3. I've never played much with texture or dehaze. There's other software like Topaz Denoise is one that I recently bought, and I run it through on my old work and see what the improvement is. But dehaze, it works something like that as well. And vibrance, I just upped the vibrance just a bit more to 23.
Okay.
And then that looked all right to me, and I just open it, and that's what it came out like. And this is all my
beautiful
work. Yeah, but I'm just waiting for Photoshop. Here we have Photoshop, and I don't need the raw file anymore, but you'll notice I'm going to just shut it down because my resources. And so this is the same one that I just brought over in raw. Very first thing I always do is create a layer by going Control J. So I did that.
Okay.
And if you notice here, down around the trees and the little flicker of light here, I took that out by cloning it. I won't clone it right now, or using the patch tool.
Those viewers who are on a Mac,
yes,
instead of Control, you can just replace Command for that. So instead of doing Control J, you do Command J for a Mac.
Yeah. So you can see what the patch tool is doing there in the little sample. That's what I did on the trees and the little flicker of light. And then the next step is something that it says touch of light, touch of darkness. And all I did was, I'll take those off. I have an app, not an app, preset, no, an action called Touch of Light, Touch of Light, Touch of Darkness, and all it is curves layers. It's a curve layer, but for me it's okay. It's easy to set up. I can click on my Touch of Light, Touch of Darkness right there, and I go to my brush tool, and I always change the opacity down to about 25 because I do it in sections, and Touch of Darkness. Wherever I wanted it darker, like taking out the bridge, I would just go and run it over until it disappeared a bit. And then Touch of Light, where I wanted to lighten it. That's what I did with these two. So I'm just going to delete these ones because they're not really the ones that I actually did the work. And the next step was a little more Touch of Light, Touch of Darkness. I didn't need the darkness anymore, but I found I wanted to lighten the sky a bit. I could have just done a little more on this layer, but I came back and decided, well, I'll make a bigger brush and I will lighten the whole sky there a bit without touching the bottom. You can see what's white there is what I lightened up from before till do it to taste, basically. And then the next thing, because when I was shooting, how this was done, I set the camera on a tripod, had all my settings, and it was focused on Judy and good composition, and I had that big flashlight that I showed you, and I stood behind her and set the timer on 10 seconds so we can see the little red light flashing down, counting down to the 10 seconds, and then I had the flashlight on and I would paint up and down her body and around her arm and her face and front of her, run in front of her a little bit, and then that streak you see from her hand, she kept her arm out there for the 15 seconds, but the streak is actually my flashlight that I couldn't turn it off while I'm running. I can't do two things at once. And that's what created that little ribbon of light. And then I must have blocked the light for a few seconds there, and then the camera caught that last little trail of light until I got behind the camera.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the speed that you move the light at is all experimentation?
Yes, totally. Yeah, I probably shot this four or five times, and then go back and look at it in the back of the camera and then see what I was missing.
Okay.
Yeah. But
And
it
I
really,
suppose you were wearing black or dark clothes?
yes, yes, dark clothes. Judy actually is wearing dark boots. This is a dress, it's a gown. Judy's a slight girl, and this was a gown that was a size 16, a wedding gown of some, or a grad gown, something like that. And it was just a creamy, flowy dress that I threw in the back of the car because I thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun to do something with this. I could put it on Judy. I'm sure she'd be game. So we didn't know, we didn't really plan this ahead of time, but it's always nice to have an idea in the back of your head. If the Aurora didn't show, we would definitely do the light painting. So having the Aurora show up was a bonus. Yeah. So then the next thing I did was, I want to show you. See the ribbons? This was done in just by using the ribbons that were there. It's a little hard to show exactly, like, because I'm not looking at the original. But what I did, I had this original raw one, or the one that I brought it over again. And by taking the selection tool on plus, I selected the ribbon, magic wand tool on plus, and I just highlighted the ribbon that I wanted to use. And I make a layer. I go Command or Control J, and then I have that layer. And then Control T, Command or Control T, is what I can use to move it. And I can rotate it. And I think I'll just put it up by her hand. And then I'll go to Image. No, I have to, let's see, Edit, and Transform, and skew it a bit, and hit Enter, and it stayed. I'm not going to make the other ribbon, but I made a copy of this layer again, and all I did was move it around again and attach it to this one and build it up that way, but using this ribbon, and I won't show you that.
And did you put it on screen mode or was it normal mode, the layer?
Let's go back. Let's see what I did. So there's the layer, and I'll take the gradient off for a second. There's the layer added to Judy's hand, that one I tried to replicate for you there. And this ribbon duplicated and stretched and moved right to there. So that was in normal, 100% normal. And then using the effects down here, a gradient overlay. And this is the colors that I decided to use. You can select any color you want by clicking on it or clicking in the bars here. I'll leave it at the purple because that's where it was. And the same for the green. And then click OK. And I played with the light here because it was probably set on normal. But I moved it down and down and down until I liked something. And vivid light seemed to be what worked for me. But it's just playing, so whatever goes, whatever works for you. Only the ribbons were lit with the gradient overlay, not the whole image, which worked out well.
So did you clip it?
Nope, it's not clipped. That's when I use the FX gradient overlay here instead of the gradient tool, which does the whole thing.
All right, so it's a layer style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Then next, what have we got? A dark sky. Okay, so what I did on this one, remember the first image that I had?
Yes.
I won't bring it up because that was just the Aurora. I said it was this part here in the bit of the water, not the bridge, not her. So a plainer image. This is called Steve, S-T-E-V-E. I can't remember what the acronym is, but it's all over Aurora Facebook Chasers, or Facebook Aurora Chasers. What Steve is all about. It's a different phenomenon. It's not an Aurora, but it comes out at the same time, usually.
Okay.
It's a big streak of purple, mostly purples and whites. It's very cool. And it's rare. It doesn't happen that often.
Okay.
Next step I did was very similar thing, except you'll notice the only thing that popped in here basically was this Steve part. I brought it down to come off her dress and flow on the ground, bring some stars on the ground and cover up the bridge. Yeah, so that was a little tricky. And then I did the same thing. I only showed what I wanted to show, which was the ribbon down below. Next, and then I did, made a layer of the whole thing, the top and the bottom added, and I cloned out what was distracting still. You can see the bridge, posts of the bridge, a little bit of the grass, and that. I cloned in more of the green and got rid of the bridge portions that are showing. You can just see the difference there. A little bit left what was on the lake. I just wanted the road to stay there. And then the next one, this was fun. Another layer. I had to take the layer again of the one that was below and reverse it, flip it, and so that I could use just this little strip of yellow and cloud in the water because it wasn't there. So I just put that there and I moved it around, Control T to transform until I placed it where I wanted, and you see I just masked out and used the part that I wanted. And then I created, what did we call that again? The merge. I merged them all together.
Merge visible.
Merge visible. There we go. Yeah. And so I like the look of that. That's pretty close to this. Me redesigning it 3 years later. This is pretty close because I didn't have all the Photoshop layers that I had from the original. So it was by guess and by golly how I created it. So I think I created it pretty close. And then I just finish it off with a touch of darkness and a touch of light. You see I just lit her up. A nice little S for there. And we have Supernal Powers. Whether she's throwing them up there or they're coming down to her. And that's it.
Wow.
I'll stop.
That was beautiful.
You like that?
That was very nice. That was like taking it from raw right up to competition level.
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand you are also a qualified judge yourself.
Yes. Through PPOC.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is it that a judge would look for in an image like this?
They now judge, PPOC has guidelines to go through. Judges look for vision, impact, composition, and technical merit on the image. And when an image is presented, one of the first things, if it wows the judge, you've got a good image. There's usually not too much that they can pick apart because it would have to be pretty bad technically. And how could it wow them if it wasn't technically very well done as well?
Yes.
So yeah, it's always a pleasure to judge some work and help the maker improve if it needed some improvement, or thank them for creating such a lovely thing.
I understand you have also been a very active mentor, helping other photographers prepare for images, including me.
Yes.
All right, helping them prepare for their competitions. So, what really does mentorship in PPOC involve? How do you mentor someone?
Well, I'm sure every photographer does it differently. We sort of have a guideline. The mentorship program is set up to help new or fairly new members, or even those that haven't participated too much but want to get more involved, to find out how they go through the steps to get accredited, to become a craftsman of photographic arts. How do you enter salon, and what's this format that they want presented for a competition, and all those things that we've had experience in, and we help them through that right up to getting them accredited. I think I've mentored 6 or 7 or whatever. Jamie Poe, yourself, Stefan Malik, Carrie Carter is one that's I'm mentoring right now, and Lindsay Sullivan, and I've forgotten somebody, and Lisa, but and yourself as well. Like just
well, you know, I have I've done photography for many years now, but I had never entered competitions because I was always under the impression I don't want other people judging my work. But when I actually saw the process of judging, I realized the feedback was so important in helping photographers improve. Judges, when I submitted my work, thanks to your mentorship, you looked at things, and the judges looked at things which I had never seen. I would skip over them because I was so close to that
Yeah.
image. So the fact that the competition helped me so much, I figured that entering competitions was extremely helpful in personal photography, in also in the rest of your photography as a business. Did you feel the same way as well when you submitted?
Oh, definitely. I remember watching the first competition. It was a fall judging here in Prince George, just before I signed on to PPOC, and it was so much fun. Judy was one of the members at the time, and we had to be quiet while the 5 judges were in front and the jury chair was helping them along, and we'd be quiet, and they would see the image come up. They'd have a few seconds, and then they would score it: accepted, not accepted, accepted, merit, or excellence. And we would sit in our chairs and go like, I'd accept that. And when the judges said no, what? Why? It wasn't ours. We weren't entering at the time. But it was a great learning experience, because that really helped me
Yes.
figure out, hey, I want to judge and help people, because I didn't know all the ins and outs and things that what would make a great image or how I could improve an image. But listening to the judges in every single thing, nationals or provincials or accreditation judging, that I've been involved in a couple times, listening to the other judges, it's just amazing what you can learn and grow from. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Terrell. It's been such a pleasure. There's so much of learning, even for me, that's happened today. Now, if somebody wants to follow you or reach out to you, what is the best way?
I'm on Facebook, Terrill Bodner Photography,
Okay.
Instagram
Yeah.
at Terrill Bodner, and I have 2 websites, because I've got my portraiture side, my business side that I started up years ago, terrellbodnerphotography.com, and then I have my fine art side, which is terrellbodner.com. So just use my name and Google me, you'll probably find something.
Nice.
Yeah.
Send me an email with all the links,
Oh, I will.
and I will put them in the show
Okay.
notes.
I can do that.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for listening to an amazing photographer, Terrill Bodner. If you like this series, we will do this once a week. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video. So other than that, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Terrell.
You're welcome. My pleasure.